Hello and welcome to a series of videos designed to visually assist people in training for the pilot's instrument rating and also the restricted instrument rating, that is also known as an IMC rating in the UK. I'm not an instructor and this is not an official training video. Always check information on these videos with official sources. I do hold a restricted instrument rating called an IMC rating in the UK, and the pilot assisting me at the controls is an ex-instructor and a current ATPL working commercially. This should be useful to pilots of any nationality, since the point is that even though every country has small differences in the way that we approach airports and limited visibility, the basic principles of ILS, Instrument Landing System, NDB, non-directional beacons and DME, distance measuring equipment, is the same. We also have to accept that the whole point in having a license and hiring a plane is that we can cross international borders, and so we have to know how to land in different countries. For the videos I'll be sticking with X-Plane 11 and I'll be recording in 4K. I also have virtual reality for X-Plane 11, but VR is definitely a user experience and not for viewing by third parties. For my money, when considering everything, X-Plane 11 is currently the best simulator for what I'm trying to do. This includes the flight model of the aircraft, which is the best, the weather conditions and the overall beautiful look of the simulator. I also have prepared version 3 from Lockheed Martin. I may use that simulator with photorealistic scenery of the UK just for the sake of variety, but at the moment I'm having trouble finding aircraft in prepared that either work in DME or have controls that allow the decimal figures to fine-tune into the local radio frequencies. I think the emphasis these days is on glass cockpit and airliners, and so bugs in traditional instruments are largely being ignored, which is a shame. The stock Cessna 172 is the only fully working aircraft I can find even for X-Plane 11. Usually the weak point of an aircraft is the DME, but as you'll find out, it's the most crucial and basic piece of equipment that's required to make an IMC approach. The DME on this aircraft disappears at 2 miles, so it's not ideal, but as you'll see, we can manage quite well with that. I will start with a series with an NDB Localizer approach from the direct entry angle. This is the most basic of the approaches. I'll also do some ADF tracking on the way in. I'm assuming you'll know the terms ADF, NDB and ILS, and roughly how the instruments work and what frequencies they work on before you can use this video as a reference. More videos will come shortly that go into the theoretical side rather than the practical side. I also leave all the little mistakes in to show you that even with an ATPL rated pilot of the controls, which I have, perfect accuracy is very hard to achieve. So don't be too hard on yourself when you do this for real. I'll do the first part of the approach as a live lecture, and then I'll move on to a direct recording. Direct recording has much higher quality. This is the only live part that I'll do whilst I give a brief explanation of the charts and I explain the process of homing in using the ADF system on the aircraft. After that, I'll revert to the higher quality direct recordings. We're going to do a Localiser DME approach on runway 28 at Blackpool Airport. Our position is somewhere in the northwest quadrant, and we're going to establish that by use of radio aids. We're going to come over to the beacon. As soon as we come over the beacon, we're going to do a direct entry. We'll time for 15 seconds, we'll go out on 273 degrees, 273, and then we'll time each leg. We'll go out, come out at 052 degrees for 1 minute, rate 1 turn, and then we'll come in and land. So the first thing to do is establish we're at 3,000 feet, as I said, and show our position. So we'll go to the simulator. It's 150 is the bearing to the airport, so it's somewhere between 180 and 090. Notice we're heading north and the card's on north too. So I'll unpause the simulator now and we'll track in on a bearing of 150 to the airport. So we'll take a right turn here. You can see up in the corner Walney Island, Blackpool Rock, the Lake District, Morecambe Bay. And it's really pretty good simulation. It does actually look like this in real life. So we're coming over Fleetwood now and the Wyre Estuary. So as we point the nose of the aircraft direct to the airfield, the heading should come onto 150 degrees. And there's the actual airfield, which in real life we wouldn't be looking at because this would all be white. So as we put the nose on 150 degrees, we're not far off at all. So we're just going to have to tweak that a little bit. So the needle was right, so we're going to have to fly right a little bit, and then that adjusts it. So if we fly due south for a short period, we'll intercept the track on 150, and then when we turn left to 150, the yellow needle will be directly on north. So as you see, 30 degrees right, 30 degrees left, we're basically bisecting the angle. As we bring it back now, 1.5 and right on the nose. So we're now on the track. Now there's no wind on this simulator, or no appreciable wind, to keep things easy. If there was, we'd probably have to put a little wind correction into this, but right now we're living in an ideal world. The vertical speed is very, very sensitive on X-plane alone, so it's very difficult to keep it exactly on. We're flying it for real today, we're not going to cheat and use the autopilot. Now, what we're looking for is the beacon overhead. When we're overhead of the beacon, this won't be able to make its mind up where it is, and it'll kick over. Before moving on to the next part of the video, it's worth reviewing what actually happened with the ADF needle whilst tracking onto the airport. As we brought the aircraft parallel to the desired track of 150 degrees by adopting a heading of 150, the ADF needle pointed towards the airfield and was 10 degrees off to the nose. This meant the absolute minimum correction we should apply to the heading of the aircraft was 10 degrees. The pilot, however, decided to intersect the track a little sooner, so he decided to steer 30 degrees right. When the needle started to converge, he knew the aircraft was coming onto track, and he slowly brought the aircraft onto the correct heading, which then coincided with the track. On this simulation, however, there was no wind. A significant crosswind would push the aircraft right or left, and so on. If the wind pushes you right, the needle will increasingly indicate more left, and so you must point the nose slightly left to compensate for that, and vice versa if the wind pushes the aircraft left. This process is known as bracketing. While the aircraft is heading into EGNH, which is the ICAO code for Blackpool, This is a good time to review the type of entry we're going to use. In order to avoid unrealistic steep turns in IMC conditions, there are a series of established patterns based around the holding pattern that we use to establish ourselves safely on the outbound leg. There are many differing diagrams and explanations, but this diagram works very well regardless of where the hold is situated. The patterns can be placed differently at different airports. Sometimes the direction of the pattern is clockwise, in which case simply reverse this diagram and it will still work for you. Basically, this is common sense. You'll know when approaching the airport what you can and cannot do in order to get safely onto the outbound leg. However, a bit of planning and thinking as you fly towards the beacon will ease your workload tremendously. In this case, we'll be heading in from top right of the inserted diagram towards the beacon, which is at the centre of the circle. Next, we'll take a look at our actual path and how we'll fly it superimposed onto the actual approach plate. We can't simply attempt to go directly into the hold, so we fly a timed sequence of events that are designed to get any aircraft into the correct pattern. As soon as we go over the beacon, we'll report beacon overhead, then we'll fly on our current bearing for 15 seconds. Then we'll execute a rate 1 turn of 15 degrees, which is the maximum turn allowed in IMC conditions, and level out when we come onto the correct bearing of 273 degrees. The hold, as you see, is slightly offset from the missed approach angle of 277 degrees and its reciprocal 097 degrees. When the ADF needle shows pointing to the beacon 30 degrees off the tail, it's time for the next 1 minute turn, and then we're established in the hold until we want to leave. The needle will now kick over as we go over the beacon. We'll carry on now for 15 seconds and set the timer. After 15 seconds, we'll do a rate 1 turn onto 273 degrees. We'll now continue on this heading for 1 minute, then a 1 minute turn, then it should be approximately 1 minute back to the beacon. When we return to the beacon, you'll notice we may do a little bit of movement left or right to compensate for wind drift. One way or the other, we've got to go back over the beacon though. What we're going to do now is we're going to carry on outwards after we've reported beacon overhead, and I'll display the vertical descent that we have to do. The distances aren't very clear because they're quite small on the screen, so I'll read them out where they're needed to be read out. DME 2 miles. DME 3 miles. DME 4 miles. DME 5 miles. DME 6 miles. DME 6 miles. DME 5 miles. DME 4 miles.
3 miles medium, 1040.
DME 3 miles.
2 miles,
DME 2 miles. We're now at the minimum descent height of 600 feet at the current QNH. If we can't see the runway by now, then we're below our minimum decision height of 600 feet and we'd have to go around and find an alternative. Obviously today is a good day, so enjoy the landing.